really matters? That might be the most important question you can ask. So let's talk about it. Welcome to What Really Matters podcast, Everyday Spirituality with Karen Wyatt. I want to thank you for joining me here again today for another episode of the podcast. And also thank you to the listener from Krakow, Poland, who reached out to me and sent me a message saying how much you enjoy this podcast and my other podcast, End of Life University. I appreciate that so very much that you took the time to send me a message. So anyone else out there listening, if you have something you'd like to talk to me about or subjects to recommend to me for the podcast or anything else to share, you can email me at karen@karenwyattmd.com. You can also reach me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram if you'd like to leave a message. So today I want to talk about this topic, there are no shortcuts. And I'll tell you how I got inspired to talk about this topic. I was reading an article about mini workouts the other day, and these involve high intensity interval training. And apparently not too long ago, someone studied 7-minute HIIT workouts, high intensity interval training, and found that they were just as effective as 30-minute workouts. So they began touting to people, look, you can get in shape with just 7 minutes a day of exercise. Then apparently this fad caught on and became so big that someone else came along and decided, what about doing a 3-minute workout? And another person apparently has done a 1-minute workout and a 30-second workout every day to help people get in shape. And it sounds to me from reading the article like people are actually flocking to these programs and plans because they're looking for ways to get fit or healthy in less time per day. They're looking for ways to put out less effort, but to get the same results. And that initial study seemed to say that people who did HIIT workouts for just 7 minutes a day had equal results to people who exercised for 30 minutes a day. Now, I understand the idea of wanting to conserve time. Time is one of our most precious commodities, really, in our society. And I understand that we have to be careful how we use our time and where we invest our time. And when an opportunity arises to be more efficient with time, it makes sense that we would want to look into that and pursue it. But I believe that there's a problem here. And when I read further in the article, it said when follow-up studies have been done with people who enrolled in these programs to do micro workouts, they found that further down the road, when the program was over and people were sent off on their own to continue the exercise, they did not continue to do it. They found out that very few people actually kept up these mini routines, even though it didn't require very much time during the day. But the problem is these high-intensity workouts required people to exercise to the point of extreme pain and discomfort. And people hated it. They hated doing it. And it made them much less likely to want to do it, even though it didn't take very much time. So in the end, creating mini workouts to get people to exercise more frequently because it would take less time backfired because the workouts were so intense and so challenging that people couldn't tolerate it and also couldn't drive themselves to do it. They may have been able to do it with a trainer standing over them, telling them, keep going, work harder, push yourself, but they weren't able to push themselves on their own to that extent. So this caused me to start thinking about our society and how these days everything seems to be sped up so much. We're living at such a fast pace. It feels like time is slipping away from us so quickly much of the time that we're looking for options everywhere we can to save on time? How can we grab a hold of time and keep it for ourselves so there's a little bit more of it? And the sad thing I find about that is that some people are willing to sacrifice the pleasure of an activity and take on the pain of doing it in a shorter time. They let go of everything that's good or fun or enjoyable about the exercise. They keep only the pain and encapsulate that into a shorter amount of time. And what I've learned over my years of living is that really we're here to figure out, how do I find enjoyment and love in the things that I do every day, even the hard things, even the things I don't really like that much. How can I embrace them in such a way that I end up feeling good about it and I end up liking what I do and how I spend my time? I think the most toxic way we could spend our time is doing something that we hate or despise and feeling that sense of hatred while we're doing the activity. So when I read about how people felt about doing these 3-minute or 1-minute intense workouts, I realized even though it's only a short amount of time to be spending in the workout, it's actually detrimental to your health if you're spending that time hating what it is you're doing. Because we need to get ourselves to a place where we can actually find love and joy in everything we do. And that includes the things we don't really like vacuuming and cleaning toilets, washing dishes, cleaning up the yard after our dog, whatever, those tasks that we don't care for, that themselves don't bring us a lot of joy. Our job is to figure out, how can we bring the joy to that experience, to whatever we're doing. And for me, exercise is one of the areas where I've been able to find a lot of joy, a lot of equanimity and contentment, even when I'm working hard, even when I'm out of breath and my muscles are hurting and my body's complaining a bit. I'm still able to get into this place of joy while I'm exercising. And so for me, 30 minutes of exercise isn't a bad thing. I know I may push myself a little bit, or I know I may be uncomfortable at times during that workout, but I also know that I will have this amazing sense of accomplishment and this sense of loving my body and doing something that's good for my body. So I know that in the end, it will turn out to be a positive experience. And that's what concerns me about the desire in our society to shrink everything down to the least amount of time possible, and then to engage in activities that have no room for joy, no room for love, no room for making the best of a challenging situation. And exercise isn't the only area where I see that we are trying to take shortcuts and trying to speed things up in our society. Look at the fast food industry and how many people every day are trying to find quicker ways of getting food into their bodies. Either going through a drive-through window to buy something to eat in the car, or finding quickly prepared microwave meals that they can make at home. Again, no judgment there. I do the same thing at times when I don't have enough time to actually cook. But we are sacrificing something when we decide to make the day-to-day tasks of our lives not matter very much. When we decide that it's okay to take a shortcut, it's okay to try to shrink down our commitment of time to those activities so that we have time for other things. And it depends, what are the other things we're trying to make time for? For most people, I think it's work. I think it's the job that people are doing. They want to be able to spend more time at work, or they're spending time in traffic, commuting. And they may be spending time doing things that don't actually bring them a lot of joy or satisfaction. And it is actually the simple activities of day-to-day life that can bring us the most joy and the most pleasure in our existence. But we forget that all the time. It's the least, smallest things that we do. I remember the pleasure of going out to pick up the newspaper when I used to have a newspaper delivered in the front yard every morning. That simple little act of walking outside and picking up the newspaper and carrying it into the house. I remember the joy of just opening the curtains in the morning when you wake up to let the light shine in the window. I remember, and I still experience all the time, the joy of cooking a special meal and experiencing the flavors and the scents and the textures of the food as I'm preparing it on the stove. And how about the simple pleasure of drinking a cup of coffee and feeling the warmth of the cup in your hand and smelling the aroma of the coffee and feeling the warm steam as it touches your face. Those are all moments that can be savored and enjoyed, that bring us deep pleasure, that help us be deeply connected with life, but also just feel the love of our own lives, our own existence day to day. But too often we seek to find shortcuts and we leave out those little activities and we forget to enjoy them and we forget to give our time to them. And I believe this is true as well with spiritual growth. I think I see a lot of programs and teachers out there that seem to be selling to people the idea that you can become happier in just a few hours a week. You can evolve yourself. You can become enlightened by just giving a little bit of your time and money to this particular program. And yet, spiritually, we know for sure there are not shortcuts. You can't skip steps in your own spiritual growth or evolution. You have to go through whatever process life offers you in order to grow, and you have to experience the things that happen in your life. You can't bypass them. You can't leave them out. You can't jump over them. And the way that you experience them in order to grow spiritually is to be fully present for every single one of those experiences in your life. So it's necessary to slow down and to take everything in, live it all as fully as possible, experience every aspect of it, to pay attention to how things look and smell and feel to you in the moment, the sounds that you hear, be fully immersed in whatever is happening. And you take things one day at a time as they come to you. Even if you can see the goal you'd like to accomplish, even though you know where you'd like to be, you can't rush yourself to that outcome, to the end goal, before you're ready. So you have to go through each and every step along the way. And one story I have about this is many, many years ago when I used to run all the time. I had a route I would run out in the foothills, and there was a little road that went up a canyon to a waterfall. And I really wanted to be able to run all the way to that waterfall. I had hiked up that trail, but I'd never been able to run it, and I wanted to. I set that as my goal for the summer, to be able to run all the way up that trail to the waterfall. A couple of times I tried running as far as I could and pushing myself really hard to go up that trail, a steep trail, and to see if I could actually do it. I kept thinking, maybe I'm ready, maybe I'm strong enough, maybe I can get all the way to the waterfall now. But both times I ended up exhausting myself, and I actually ended up with sore muscles and overuse injuries that lasted for a week or so after I tried that, and which kept me from doing my usual runs and set me back in my training and conditioning. So my efforts to try to take shortcuts and to try to speed up getting in shape to run to the waterfall actually ended up hurting me and setting me back even further. So I came up with a new plan that I named A Little Bit Further. And what I did the next time I tried running to the waterfall, I ran to a place where I didn't feel exhausted. I didn't feel too tired. It wasn't as far as I had gotten before when I pushed really hard, but I went to a place that I still felt comfortable. I wasn't hurting. I felt all right. And I stopped there and I made note of where I was on the trail when I stopped. The very next day, I said to myself, today I will run a little bit farther. So I did. I ran to that same point and I ran just a little bit farther. And I made note of how far I got that day. And the next day, I did the same thing. Every single day, I ran a little bit farther than I had run the day before. And every day, I did that with ease. On no single day was I exhausted or hurting or injured. And so before too long, I passed the place I had been forced to stop before in exhaustion. And I was still running every day with ease. I wasn't tired. I wasn't exhausted. So for the whole summer, I did my a little bit farther technique. And by the end of the summer, I made it all the way to the waterfall again, never being exhausted or worn out, never getting injured, never having an overuse symptom from my running. And so it made it clear to me that we can accomplish amazing things, but we have to accept from the outset that we can't expect shortcuts and we can't constantly be trying to get to the end goal before we're ready. We have to allow ourselves enough space and time, and we have to approach our goals with enough self-love that we can say, you know what, I don't need to be amazing every day. All I need to do is get a little bit farther. And maybe some days it's only 2 or 3 steps farther than we did the day before. Maybe some days we can go 10 or 12 feet farther than we did before. Who knows? But we have to have enough self-love to allow ourselves to work within our own limitations, allow ourselves to go just a little bit farther each day, and stop trying to find shortcuts or ways to speed it up or ways to make it easier. I remember my dad always told me that any goal worth accomplishing is worth taking the time to do it and to do it right. And that has always stayed with me, that there's something about the time we're willing to invest in our goals that makes those goals even more valuable. And if we try to take shortcuts, it really means that we don't care enough about the goal to invest all the time that it requires. We're devaluing that goal. And so this is why we need to take a hard look at our addiction in a way to moving fast, getting things done quickly, and finding shortcuts in everything we do, and finding quicker ways of accomplishing things. And be willing to slow down a little bit and just take our time, living each moment as fully as possible as it arises for us. Taking in whatever is happening right now, figuring out in the moment, how do I bring my whole self to this moment, to this experience, even to this challenge, to this problem that is coming to me? How do I bring all of me and stay fully present and not rush my way through it? How do I take my time and invest in my response to this situation that I'm in? Give it my time to make it more precious, to make it more valuable to me, to increase the worth that it has for me in my life, and therefore the meaning that it has for me. So you can spend time dusting and scrubbing the floor and come away from those activities feeling like I just did the most amazing work and it was wonderful, and feeling like, wow, my life is incredible. It has so much value in this moment. There was a concept I studied from Buddhism that talked about chopping wood and carrying water, and remembering that the way we grow is actually through these little day-to-day moments that we do with integrity, we do with our whole selves, being fully present. So whatever it is that you need to do today, if it's working out or finding something to eat or cleaning up or paying bills, I hope you will find a way to be fully present while you're doing that activity, to invest your time, to give up looking for shortcuts, and to really relish being in this present moment and finding all of the joy and all of the love that resides right here, right now, for each and every one of us. So thanks for joining me, and I'll see you again next week. Until then, remember that we are here for love. That is all that it's about. Find the love in every moment, no matter what you're doing, and face your fear. Be ready for whatever happens next, and love each and every moment of your precious life. Bye-bye.